Chapter 8, Unification Dome. Stardate 7807.85. A welcome sight was Calavo from the edge of the system after their long and arduous trip. It appeared as a glowing jewel radiating colorful beams through the neonite gas cloud passing by the star. Then another gem appeared, shining almost as brightly. It was the planet Ketriel-Mon, enveloped in a SEF energy field. This field, developed especially for this event, made the planet appear almost as a miniature galaxy rotating serenely in orbit around the star. Many ships were entering the gravity of Ketriel-Mon, or QM. Once in the field, each one's flight was taken control of and guided down to the appropriate place by a force in the field itself. So many more lights, that is, the incoming vessels, were flowing into the one swirling ball of lights, QM, and adding to its brilliance. All of this was very controlled and orderly. Some would call it beautiful. The most intelligent life forms, commonly called IBs, would say it was orderly. Beauty is known to be order on a high level, and this event had a very high level of order. The scope of this SSD event was truly galactic in that so many IBs from all parts of the galaxy were coming. Besides the 122 known civilizations known to Earth at that time, hundreds more were represented by the delegates from the farthest reaches. Many were gathered here for the first time with other intelligent life forms. It was reported that a few even came from two nearby galaxies. This was so rare it was unbelievable to some. It was not even known exactly how they got there, but they were apparently real. About 60% attended by means of the Intreb web system. There were several Intreb gates on the surface of planet QM. The entire planet had spent many of their years preparing for this event. Thousands of dome theaters were built for the 1.5 billion IBs that attended as observers. The SS Dome itself had some 20 million delegates in a secure location on QM. All the observer domes were tuned in to the SS Dome to see and hear everything, but they could not actually participate as those in the SS Dome could. An event of this magnitude would be impossible without the SEF source energy flow. Now fully operational at all SS domes, this energy field directly from the source protects and provides for all. It makes everything run smoothly. It had already been providing for the function of the SS domes for some time. All those who were present at the SS domes, whether they participated in missions or not, had their physical existence suspended during that time. This means that they did not need food or sleep or such things that a physical creature needs, because they existed on a higher level in the domes, and this type of benefit was now extended to all the observers on the planet while in attendance in the dome theaters. Their needs were provided for, although remaining physical, while those in the SS Dome itself were on a spiritual or higher plane in the singular source space. So the SSF was an integral and important part in the organization and flow, as it were, to this event. It also enabled the Sing Swords to return to normal space-time after the event. In previous SS domes, the time shift could be weeks or months difference from normal solar time in the galaxy. Now, with SEF, they could return to normal time within a week after the event, and of course, there would be no effects of aging to their physical bodies. The effect of the SS domes and the activities of the Sing Swords on peoples of the galaxy was becoming widely known now. Hence, there was a greater attendance of observers at each SS dome. These were steps in the gradual unification of the galaxy and ultimately beyond. The vague term beyond is used here because of the limited knowledge of other galaxies in the universe, but there is a minority of so-called travelers that claim to visit other galaxies by means of farsight, since no other way is known to reach them. They say that a number of other galaxies have become unified. They say that these galaxies, some of which have never been seen or heard of before, are unified in the sense that all the intelligent civilizations not only recognize the source, but also live in harmony with it. And there is evidence that these have established a unity between several galaxies on a basic level of provable belief, and perhaps in a literal way by means of intergalactic tunnels or bridges. This intergalactic community or unification has evidently existed for aeons. Our galaxy is merely in the infant stage of unification. The Sing Swords had known that this unification was the natural progression for intelligent species or life forms and their survival. Now millions of others were beginning to realize this truth, and that all of this, especially the unification of the higher life forms, was being guided by the source or creator of all that is beautiful and orderly. Shortly after their arrival on QM, Eldon and his party held a memorial for their 5 friends that they had lost on their trip. Then they were inserted into the SS Dome and were able to concentrate fully on that. An outstanding feature of this one was that there were delegates from civilizations that had long been and are now enemies, united in attendance. The things that divided them before were now removed. So many amazing accounts were heard of how the Sing Swords had prevented accidents and disasters, helped to maintain peace, and were used to effect progress and order. Here are a few typical examples. On the border of the Kaiga Empire, 2 Pausengi traders stopped at outpost K99E. They bought supplies, and the attendant put a ribbon around the package for them, as was the custom. But when the Pausengi saw the ribbon, they became incensed at the attendant, because they believed it should be red, but it was orange. To them, this was an extreme insult. They wanted to kill the attendant. Just as one was drawing his weapon, the Sing Swords arrived. The ribbon immediately turned red, and an apology was made by Agent 211 Ann. Along with her was 236 Savort. Both wearing outpost badges, they explained that the attendant was new and the ribbon was not allowed to cure before putting it on. The traders accepted the explanation with a grunt and left. They had saved a man's life, but more than that, they had probably prevented a war. Unknown to anyone else but them, the attendant was the king's nephew. He was there as a temporary trial exchange. A royal trades places with a commoner for a period of days to gain insight into the way each lives. Another one was in a far distant galaxy. It did not have to do with a war or other dire consequences. In fact, it seemed rather insignificant compared with other missions. It took place on a planet the inhabitants called Earth. This fact is what really caught Eldon's attention. Could this be the Earth in the Rainbow Earth legend? He had always wondered if it was a real place. Elysia 201513 and 101514 Liqui were watching over a newly married couple traveling on a road on a cross-country trip. One thing that interested the SS agents in this couple was that their son, who was to be born the following year, would hold an important position in a future world. In the SS Dome, time could be viewed forward or backward like a long measuring tape. Another thing the SS agents could see that the couple could not was a weakness in one of the wheels of their vehicle. Choosing to remain invisible in this case, each agent performed an action for this couple. Liqui maintained strength in the wheel until an appropriate time. Elysia chose the exact time and spot for the wheel to finally break. The wheel broke off of the vehicle. It was the right front one, but the vehicle did not crash. It just lowered and slowly came to a stop on the side of the road. The location was chosen for this because it was within a short walk to an emergency phone call box. These communication devices, phones as they were called, were miles or many kilometers apart. This was considered a safe way to travel at that time. The agents knew that if the wheel had not been sustained by them, it would have broke off earlier on a curve that would have resulted in a horrible accident. If it would have broke later, it may have put them in the vicinity of a serial killer that was finding victims along the roads. Thanks to the intervention of these SS agents, the man, woman, and their small animal merely had a delay on their trip. This third example happened in Sardis of the Oncopia star. This mission required that the SS agents stay there for about 3 of their weeks. It was their assignment to work at a large plant and investigate the conditions and mistreatment of workers. 41514 Bowman and 112 Zayhawk were appalled at the conditions there. They had to endure these conditions and some harsh treatment while there to fulfill their mission. Much of the atmosphere in the plant was not safe for biped humanoids. Breathing masks were few and in disrepair. The atmosphere inside 80% of the plant was designed to sustain their product, the product being synthetic living plants. Most of them were the Venuflap carnivorous, large carnivorous plants used as protective barriers for the homes of the elite class. The agents observed that some workers, usually the smaller or weaker ones, would pass out in the hotter, cloudy areas of the plant. They would be taken to the phys aid station. A guard was posted at the door of that room when sick or injured workers were taken there. The agents did not see those workers again, and no one else seemed to know or care what happened to them. They discovered that they were being fed to the carnivorous plants to test them. The plant producing killer plants was killing their humanoid workers, using them as plant food. The agents could have threatened to expose what they were doing there, but they knew that would do no good because the authorities were just as corrupt and would do nothing. No one in that society cared anything for plant workers. So, the agents met with the plant administrators. During this meeting, they pleaded the case of the workers. Agent Zayhawk took the lead in the defense of the workers, making the point that they were essential because no automation could do what they do. He also said that it had been proven in other plant-producing operations that a symbiotic system worked best. An environment where workers and plants coexist and benefit each other is superior. But his speech was apparently in vain, falling on deaf ears, as it were. They were about to be thrown out of the plant when Agent Bowman entered with a small carnivore plant. This was their leverage. They told the plant manager and his 2 yes-man whipcrackers that this little plant was their future. Bowman then quickly took a weed rat and tossed it in the biggest flower cup of the plant. There was some vibrating, then crunching, and the rat proceeded to eat his way out of the flower. The administrator rats could hardly believe their eyes when the rat ate the plant instead of the plant eating the rat. Zayhawk now explained that earlier that day, Bowman had introduced a biospecific bomb into the ventilation system. This bomb attacked the carnivorous-type plants, killing them within 8 hours. Their operation was effectively shut down. All that was left was the small plant in their office, which would only eat insects. This plant was brought in by the agents as an alternative. The administrators had no choice but to start developing that plant. The biobomb left a residue that would reactivate if the flesh-eating type of plant was brought back. The new type of plants required a good environment for the workers, and they became popular and profitable for the owners. The next mission account I myself, Eldon, participated in. In these chronicles, Eldon does not speak of himself in the first person, but it is mentioned now because this was so important to him personally. This was Eldon's first official mission as a Sing Sword. He was assisting 4217 Armstrong. The number indicates the agent's origin and or family. Eldon's number was 252011. They were sent to the planet Valeniez near Orion, only 2,500 light-years from Earth. A resident of Barbai Valley there made a specific request to speak with a Sing Sword on a personal matter. In this part of the planet it was hot and desert-like. There were canyons, mesas, valleys, with tall terra towers and cactus-type trees that rose almost 20 meters into the air. To Eldon, it all resembled the desert areas of the Americas of Earth. To travel in this part of Valagnes, you had to fly. No one dared walk or travel on the ground. The surface had become a deadly environment of scorpions, spider pits, and glotches, a type of giant antlion. If you were to venture close enough to the ground, normally all you could see would be some skeletal remains. Eldon and Armstrong started their flight through the Barbet Valley looking for the residents. Like everyone else, they had to wear fly skins to fly low range. These were a type of personal suit that used magnetic waves to fly or swim near the surface. These would also help an individual to remain cool in the desert. The best flying techniques were very similar to birds. The two new birds were adapting quickly, learning to maneuver around obstacles such as terra towers in the valley. The fly skins were layered so as to expand from the wearer's arms and legs, something like wings. The flyer could use his wings to speed up, slow down, or bank on curves as needed. Many of the cliff dwellings looked alike. However, a closer view revealed more detail in specific carvings around the openings, and some had little banners or hanging montagas, also known as quilts in other cultures. The valley could only be approached from either end. You could not come down from above in the middle of the valley because of restrictions by the High Council of Valagnes. As the agents were flying through the valley as quickly as they could, they heard an unnerving sound. It was a screech or scream, and it was getting louder. Eldon glanced back to see a few other flyers behind them. The sound was coming from them, and it was not a friendly greeting. They still had maybe a kilometer or so to get to the residence they were looking for. The flyers behind them were increasing in number as they heard more warning screams. There was no looking back now as the agents flew faster, fleeing the hostility coming from behind. Some new birds flying out of the cliffs to join the mob would collide with others. They would spin and fight, the losers falling to the valley floor. The faint cries of the fallen ones were ignored as the angry flock pushed ahead. Armstrong now said to Eldon, "We will duck into the first opening on the right around this corner." They swooped around the cliff corner, banking sharply with their wings, and kept curving around right into the first opening. Their pursuers came flying around the corner and could not see where they went. The mob of angry birds scattered, now screeching off in different directions. A few perched on rooftops and rocks to watch the valley, but they could not see Eldon and Armstrong, who were hiding behind a hanging montaga quilt. Both of them were more concerned about what was happening outside than what they had flown into. Then a raspy voice came out of the darkness behind them, saying, "Ke," in the local language. They turned around to see a heavy-set bald man holding out a sword nervously. "What are you doing in here?" he asked. The two uninvited visitors answered in his language. "We were being chased and had to hide," Armstrong offered. Eldon then added, "We are looking for a residence here." "Outworlders are not welcome here," the man warned, stepping closer to them, still brandishing the sword. The agents began to explain who they were when the man interrupted. "I have heard of you. You go on missions or crusades in all the galaxy. You are crusaders for truth and unity. A frightful thing you are. Locals here are afraid of you. They think you are invaders trying to take over." "We were not aware of the intense fear," Armstrong admitted. Some things the SS agents do not know until they get to their locations. Then they look toward the outside as if they wanted to leave now. "But I believe in what you are doing," the man said as he put down his sword. "You are like universal heroes. St. Angelus is the name I call you. Angels. Do you know what I mean?" "We have heard that term. It is from ancient legends, is it not?" Armstrong asked. "Yes, but you still exist. You're real. You are really here, aren't you?" The man reached out and touched Armstrong's arm. The visitors were surprised, since they did not expect to find someone like this here. "I am called Don Viejo." "I am Armstrong, and this is Eldon. Do you, Don Viejo, believe there is a singular source of all life?"
Yes, of course. I am a believer in the stories of the ancients, but I cannot talk about it openly on this godforsaken planet.
He hit the top of his head with his fist as he remembered something.
Pardon me, please. I have not offered you a drink. Please let me give...
No, we cannot. Thank you, but we must be getting on to our contact person here, Armstrong said, holding up his hand. Eldon spoke up now and said, Yes, do you know where BV4-TP83 is located? The man quickly opened a pre-cut slit in the Montaga and looked across the valley.
That dwelling is over there.
He pointed down the valley and at the other side. 2 crow flyers were perched atop it. As they were looking at it, a flyer came out of the dwelling and perched on top of it. Then one of the other ones flew down and into the dwelling. Is that where Juan Pablo Suarez resides? Armstrong asked.
I know everyone in this area, and I don't know of anyone by that name. Curious.
He pinched his goatee as he turned and walked to a cabinet. The visitors awaited a further comment. The man poured a dark substance into a cup and took a drink.
Maquil elixir. Ever heard of it?
The visitors did not respond. Don Viejo continued.
That dwelling has been empty for over 18 says,
about a month.
And there has only been activity there in the last few days.
Armstrong looked a little confused as Eldon took another look at it through the Montaga.
In fact, those crows over there are sympathizers, or even aides of the Dark Lords. They would be very much against what you are doing. Take my advice and do not go there.
We suspected that something might be wrong here, Armstrong admitted. It's good that we found you, Eldon said to Don Viejo. Don Viejo pointed at Eldon and said,
It was Providence. The Creator wanted you to come here to avoid that trap.
So the agent stayed and accepted the hospitality of the old man in the corner dwelling. He prepared a meal for them. They discussed the Sing Sword's adventures of late and the progress made toward peace and unity in the galaxy. Don Viejo asked why they have not done more in the way of education. The agents explained that they are educating in a historical perspective. However, setting out beliefs, principles, statutes, or codes would take much more time. Don Viejo showed them his artifacts, art and photos that highlighted the Creator and evidence of the unseen source. Some of the photos of all different species and tribes together in unity were quite striking to Eldon. It made him ask Don Viejo about the Rainbow Earth. Don said he had heard of it and that he believed it was real. He could not verify where all the photos were from, but speculated that some could very well have come from there. This man's belief in the metaphysical side of life, or faith as he called it, was amazing to the agents visiting. This kind of person was rare and unique, so they decided to extend to him an invitation to come to the SS Dome. He was excited at the prospect and felt unworthy of this privilege. This is because of his great respect for the Sing Swords and their cause. He also wondered if it would even be possible for him to leave his home. As he explained to them,
I cannot leave here or I will die. The Maquil elixir I mentioned before, it chains anyone who depends on it to this planet. It is only made here, and its medicinal properties only work while the user is on the planet, inside its magnetic field. I cannot explain in scientific detail, but it is true. So you see, it is a love-hate relationship for me.
Such problems are eliminated in the SS Dome, Armstrong reassured him.
I was hoping for a miraculous solution. This is a wonder. I thank you, my friends,
Don Viejo responded triumphantly. So for his help and support, Don Viejo was able to attend some sessions of this SS Dome, a once-in-a-lifetime experience for many. The agents were approved to make him their contact person on the planet Valonez. Any future visits to his planet would include a visit to him. One more example of how the works of the Sing Swords powerfully strengthened and unified many points throughout the galaxy. The corridor of Cyberon in the Delphi edge of the galaxy has always been a dangerous place. It consists of two pulsating stars at 0.68 light-year apart, with a connection of gases and energy passing between them. This connection was named the corridor when travelers entered it and found it passable. They found that on one side it flows from Cyberon A to the other star, Cyberon B, and on the other side of the corridor the flow is from star B to star A in accord with the star's rotation. When first discovered, it was treated as a unique formation for study, but not for travel. Some took dares or risks to cross it in races, but their crafts were not sturdy enough, or they would collide with someone crossing in the opposite direction. When a science vessel found an unusual element in its filters, much more interest was paid to the corridor. The element was called quantanium. It has some unique properties that have made it very valuable. It seems to restore certain substances to a former, newer state. For example, when it was added to a tank of hydrogen liquid that had been sitting for a long time, it made it more powerful, even like new, and even the inside surface of the tank was renewed. More uses are being found for this element all the time. However, there are dangers when carbon-based life are overexposed to it. It is believed that it caused the brains of some travelers to burn out. Their brains functioned at an extremely high, near 100% level for a short time, which was followed by a period of depression and memory loss. Of course, so much is unknown about quantanium, and many have chosen to ignore the risks. The corridor of Cyberon is the only place where it has been found. From as far as the galaxy's center, IVs, or intelligent beings, come to investigate the corridor. An incident arose at the Cyberon corridor which came to the attention of this SS Dome. A merchant ship from Aldebaran entered the opening of the corridor at Cyberon A and started crossing at standard 6 HP speed. This was a normal cross time of several hours to collect quantanium. The pilot and crew had never crossed the corridor before. Along the way, the glow and shimmer of cyberplasma, as it was known, was ever present on each side of the 10 to 15 kilometer wide corridor. Also, at many points near the sides were glowing balls, sparkling fields of pebbles, and various lights, graves of the unfortunate ones who did not make it through. These highly visible warning lights, caught in the plasma flow and gradually breaking down, were a sobering reminder of the dangers still involved in crossing the corridor. What increased the dangers exponentially was the risk-takers and criminal element who ignored the regulations established for safe crossing. An obvious and essential rule was that two-way traffic had to stay on their side of the narrow corridor in line with the plasma flow. Many of the grave lights were ones that did not follow safe crossing rules. Unmanned autopilot craft had proved unreliable, nor could they extract debris and remains from the plasma flow. The Aldebaran merchant ship, 2/3 of the way through, was overtaken by one of the criminal elements, Sarangi traders. They had been law-abiding for the most part, but this one was a renegade. They disabled the Aldebaran ship, stole their quantanium, and left them stranded. 2 Sing-Sword agents volunteered for this mission, Lormax 119 and 4114 Ophiko. Lormax approached the disabled ship in a Delphi medium-range cruiser. Ophiko waited at the B end of the corridor for the Sarangi robbers. Lormax identified himself and turned on his warning lights, but no response from the Aldebaran ship. They did not trust him. So Lormax decided to wait. Instead of repairing their ship with his unseen power, which he could have easily done, he had another idea. He wanted to see if anyone passing by would stop to help. There was no record of anyone doing that because it was so dangerous to stop. If no one would be brave enough to stop, then Ophiko would come with the Sarangi ship. During the next hour, many ships passed by without a signal. Lormax put out a distress signal since the Aldebarans had not. Finally, an Omni-Mini science vessel came to a stop ahead of them. With the help of a universal translator, Lormax convinced them that if they all worked together, instead of just looking at one another, it would be good for all. He was able to help crew members from the other two ships to do exterior repairs on the disabled ship. This was an unusual sight, to see three ships of very different civilizations at one spot working together. Several ships slowed to sublight speed to look. A few even stopped to offer assistance. Of course, no one was completely stopped because they were all moving with the river of cyberplasma. Lormax gave them the opportunity to help rid the corridor of an enemy and make it safer for all. When the disabled ship was repaired, the grateful Aldebarans accompanied Lormax and the others, now 7 ships, to the B end of the corridor. Ophiko had been holding the Serengi vessel there. He noticed that they were not wearing the required helmets to protect from the effects of Quantanium. Lormax and the others arrived, retrieved the stolen Quantanium, and returned it to the Aldebarans. Then they all escorted, or more accurately, chased the Serengi ship all the way out of the Delphi region. This event became highly publicized as a Sing Sword rescue by the 2 agents who remained nameless to them. The agents made sure to tell the captains of the ships who aided them that this shows that cooperation is possible and ultimately far more valuable than any amount of Quantanium, other element, or physical space. They evidently got the point and spread the message, because now instead of being known as a dangerous death trap, the corridor of Cyberon is a place where mutual cooperation is the norm and help is freely given whenever needed. Hostile acts are not permitted, and any animosities of one group against another are suspended there. This was another small step toward unification of our galaxy. Many other accounts of how this SS Dome helped to strengthen and unify all intelligent life can be found in the Sing Sword Chronicles. Chapter 9, Salena. Eldon's life was about to enter a new phase and change him forever. Up until now in his young life, he was happy with exploring the galaxy with his associates of like backgrounds and ideology. Even so, he had not formed any close relationships since he had lost Datar in the Star Desert. He knew he had an intense interest in the metaphysical or supernatural, which he preferred to call the supranatural. That meant he was interested in unseen forces or evidence of the source, not simply for the sake of being outside the physical norms. The most recent SS Dome had opened his mind to how the source or creator is active throughout the known universe. Also, Eldon was learning that he had an inclination to the qualities that were considered higher by some, and alternative by most, in Hearthites, such as love, mercy, and humor. He was not content with the status quo of the cool, formalized behavior of his people. At the same time, he knew that falling victim to extreme emotion and passion was not good either. In Eldon's Earth, domestic life was rather mundane. Emotions were rarely, if ever, shown. If 2 people, whether they were of a different gender or the same gender, wanted to be together, they formed a partnership. There were no binding obligations attached to it. However, if they wanted to procreate or have their own children, then a marriage was performed, which was called a permpar. These were quite often arranged years in advance by the family heads. Every aspect of life was controlled by the state until a certain age or status was reached. A permpar, or a permanent life union with a radically different life form, was not recommended and did not receive support from the state. But in the current century of Earth, partnerships or friendships with other life forms and cultures was becoming more common. And now Eldon's involvement with the Sing Swords was helping him to think outside the box of Hearthite deportment. Gradually he was realizing his need for companionship, if not of a mate, at least of a friend or partner. He wondered, where is the one for me? The one that thinks along the same lines, the one that will work with me to reach the same goals. I want a special friend. How do I start looking? He did not wonder about it too much because his service as a full-time Sing Sword now was a fulfilling living. Also, he knew that as long as he remained a full-capacity Sing Sword, he was prohibited from forming a permanent life union or permpar with anyone else. Sink swords take an oath to be fully dedicated to their cause and not to take on side responsibilities. Of course, there were many partnerships among them, but Eldon felt an inner longing to form a union with someone of the opposite female gender. He did not know exactly where it came from. Perhaps it was rooted in his planet's ancient past. Somehow it was stirred to life in him, and was another quality that made him unique among the Hearthites of his time. He was now about to make that rare find that would change his life. It was now GTA 80.9-11-6492-0.5, being the galactic time, a more accurate way to record time. All around the galaxy, it was quickly replacing the old Stardate system. It manifests 4 different measurements: sector, dimension, motion or rotation of the galaxy, and energy reading of space. Eldon and Sodonara 192022 had just completed an assignment on Valanyez in San Juanilu's citadel. They had captured an informer to the Dark Lords. Sodonara was called away immediately afterwards, so Eldon was told to make the report to their contact himself. Eldon arrived at Don Viejo's dwelling without incident. Normally, Eldon would make a quick report and leave, but in this case Eldon did not mind staying a little longer to visit with the old man, who was very gracious and a little lonely. Besides, Eldon was fascinated by his collection of old photos of various representatives of differing civilizations united together seeking the source. They were said to be from a time long ago and far away. Don Viejo sent one of his messenger birds to tell his escribor, or secretary, to come. He used these birds for communications because he did not want any Zing-Tech or automated technology in his home. He believed in doing everything by hand and without zing or electricity. This, he said, helped him to remain safe and pure. But because of his age and a disease that gradually was crippling him, he needed an assistant to help out and take down his notes. The escribor, whose dwelling was not far away, arrived within minutes. Upon arrival, the escribor promptly removed the messenger bird from a pocket and then removed his own fly-skin coat. The form was feminine and somewhat smaller without the flight suit. She removed the head cap to release her shoulder-length hair. "This is Salena, my assistant," Don Viejo said to Eldon. Eldon nodded, but said nothing. "Eldon is the SS agent I told you about, Salena. He has a report for us." Then she sat at the table, grasped the pad and pen, and said, "Muy pui," which means "if you please. I'm ready." She was clearly excited about taking her first report from a Sing Sword in person, although she was a little unsure of what to say, so she got to the work at hand right away. Eldon, too, was unsure in this situation and hesitated. Don Viejo assured him, "It is all right, my friend. She has passed all the SS tests. She is a trustworthy believer." Relieved, Eldon proceeded to give the report on his mission as they all sat at the table. Salena was the fastest hand at dictation Eldon had ever seen. She wrote down every word without abbreviations. At a few points, Eldon just stopped and stared, not only at her writing ability, but at her appearance as a whole. Then she would say, "Continue, please," and he would be a little embarrassed and jolt himself back to where he was in the account. Eldon now began to notice a few things about Salena's appearance that were particularly appealing to him. Besides her serious attitude and proficient dictation-taking, she was very physically attractive to him. Her dress was simple and modest. Her black hair, being clean and neat, was not styled to attract undue attention. Her brown eyes were like the twinkling jewels of Empyrean to Eldon, and he thought he saw her smile once. This was a rare Hearthite trait, alluding to other rare qualities inside. Eldon did not know much about the people of Valanyez, except that some were more like Hearthite than others. The old man, Don Viejo, was content to watch and then just listen as he attended to his birds and plants. When Eldon finished his report, he just sat there trying to think of something else because he did not really want to leave. Then Viejo asked, "Can you stay for a meal?" that Eldon had to say. I would like to, but another time. I should return to the dome for another assignment. Can you choose what places to go for your work? Salena asked. That may be possible, was Eldon's optimistic reply. I think you will be back again. We will look forward to seeing you again, Eldon, Viejo confidently stated, patting Eldon's arm. Then something occurred to Eldon. Some agents are sent to certain planets or get certain missions because they know or have more experience with some cultures or civilizations. So he said, if I learn more about Valeniez and the people here, it would be more likely that I'll be sent back. This drew an immediate response from Salena. I could show you around the valley and also Cardenio del Rio. I know some people in the office of Seguros and some business people. That would be fine. I would like to do that, Salena. I will contact you soon. Goodbye, my friends, Eldon said with some elation. He was very happy that Salena was so willing to help him to get to know the area. As he left Valeniez, he was flying a little higher and lighter than normal because he had a really good feeling about her. He knew he had found a rare treasure indeed. It was not until a solar year later that Eldon was able to return. He found himself thinking about Salena often, and he made regular communications to her and Don Viejo. His next visit was on his own after a mission of SS within 25 light years. He made the trip at his own expense on his personal time. The Intreb Gate in Cardenio del Rio was situated in the center of the city. As soon as Eldon exited the building housing the gate, he was struck by the view of the Council Domicilio. It appeared as an ancient castle in the midst of a modern city. It had housed various government offices for generations. Although the outside had been preserved as it originally was, the inside was modernized. All around, the distinctive V shape was in evidence, even in the architecture of the buildings. Eldon had seen photos, but the real thing was beyond his imagination. Especially the so-called caballos were a unique sight to Eldon. They were cabs or conveyances with the head of a horse or similar creature on the front of them. They floated silently between buildings by modern technology, yet were a tribute to the past when such animals were commonly used. Each caballo had a life-size horse head, but Eldon did not know that they moved and looked alive until now. This was one example of the pride the Valenizians had in their culture. They had a pride in their history and a passion for their art that was not common on Eldon's earth. The Cardenio Cafe was across from the Intreb terminal, Eldon's appointed meeting place with Salena. He stepped on the walkway in front of it, but Salena was nowhere in sight. There were two women sitting on a bench in front of the cafe. One got up and approached, saying, "Are you Eldon?" A bit surprised, Eldon slowly said, "Yes, that is my name. Who are you?" "I am Maserita, the one you are supposed to meet today." She was young, a local, but definitely not Salena. With a confused look, Eldon responded, "I'm sorry, I don't know you. I am here to meet a person named Salena." "I do not know who that is, but this is my mother, Asalia." How could she know his name and not know Salena, Eldon thought. She motioned to the woman on the bench, who was hunched over with a hood covering her face. The woman slowly rose and feebly limped forward, saying, "Hola, Blanco." Then she immediately threw back the hood. It was Salena. The girls broke out into laughter. Eldon was happily relieved and even let out a laugh himself. This kind of spontaneity and local color was something Eldon was unfamiliar with, but he found it exhilarating and refreshing, as if experiencing these things for the very first time. Eldon was not aware of it yet, but he was beginning to change inside. So now began their day of discovery in this typical city of Valeniez. Eldon, Salena, and her friend Maserita were ready. First, they walked into the cafe where they met. The girls ordered one Zadepa and Zellwater for each of them, since Eldon was not at all familiar with the cuisine. They mercifully made Eldon's a mild one. "This is quite spicy, but I like it," Eldon said, trying to be outgoing and gregarious. Maserita giggled because that was the least spicy thing in the place. Salena asked, Don't they have something like this on your planet? Oh yes, on Earth there is some food like this, but it is more or less an imitation. This is the real thing here, I think. Selena's joyful anticipation was plainly displayed as she said, I want to show you many things here, all real. How long do you have? All this day I am yours. I have been looking forward to this for a year. After a discussion about things Eldon has seen and done as a singsword, they walked outside. Since it was near, they first stopped at the office of Seguros. The receptionist was very friendly and happy to see the three of them. However, Salena was circumspect and somewhat nervous. She was cautious not to reveal too much about her guest, so they only stayed a moment in the lobby and did not go further into the department. Unknown to them, though, a pair of suspicious eyes was watching them. From that point on, they had a tail stalking them. Led by Salena, they quickly got away from that government building and crossed the square. A vibrant and colorful place, each shop in the center of the city was like a Doma painting come to life. Within a short walking distance was the Museo. Not just a museum, but a planetary conglomeration of everything Valenizian, past and present. Much of it was artworks of their great masters, such as Doma, Georges, and others. They came upon a display of life in the Barbet Valley area. This was one thing that was somewhat familiar to Eldon since he had been there. This exhibit showed the deadly life forms in the bottom of the valley. It was open, raised a few feet off of the floor of the viewing area, with a short transparent wall in front. The scorpions, gloches, spiders, and serpents looked so very real. They were moving slowly, but kept their distance from the edge of the display where the people were. As the three of them were looking at them and thinking they were glad that these creatures were not real, Salena turned to her right where Eldon was and asked him a question. What would you do if you were in that valley with all those creepy things? Eldon turned toward her and started to say, I would hope I had a good weapon. Then he noticed something that she could not see. One of the spiders was coming close to the edge of the exhibit booth right near the wall. He immediately pulled her away from that wall of the exhibit and gave a sharp punch to the spider with the back of his hand. It was knocked back and landed on its back with legs still moving. Margarita laughed and said, It was her. She got you again. That was good. You were fast, Eldon, Salena said. You did that? Yes, I did it. It was a Frascasi. Eldon just stared. You know, Salena continued, a deceit, a hoax, a prank, a trap, a quiz. Is there no word for that in your language? Eldon started to smile and said, Surprises. You have many surprises. They were all amused, and it helped them to enjoy the museo more. This practice of Frascasi, or surprise, was new to Eldon, but he was willing to learn it because it was a basic and inseparable part of Selena's personality. Later he asked her how she made the spider move. She only said she knows how, and then changed the subject. As they entered a crowded room of the museo, Salena saw a face in the crowd she recognized. He was from the Seguros department. She sensed they were being followed. She discreetly told her friends not to look around, but that they were being watched and that they had to leave. They got outside as fast as they could and hailed the first caballo that came. Their pursuer was fast and set out after them in his own cab. Is he following? Sarita asked. Eldon looked back. I think he is. Where are we going, Salena? He asked. Driver, take us to the zoo park, Salena announced, then turned to Eldon and said, I have a friend there that can help us. A vision flashed in Selena's mind as they approached an intersection. Exit here now, she yelled. The driver barely had time to react, yet the cab cut to the right more sharply and speedily than he ever thought possible. How did I do that? The driver exclaimed. Driver, please stop the cab, Salena requested in a hollow tone. She looked back at the street they came from as the driver was saying, You told me to exit, but this is not the right way. The cab stopped, and then a crash could be heard. It was a bad collision at the intersection they had just avoided. The head of a horse bounced into view with the mouth moving, teeth showing as if in severe distress, but no sound from it. They were all perturbed at that rear view. Then the cab that was chasing them came into view. Salena said, "Go!" and the chase was on again. No conversation ensued as the chase to the zoo was intense. The cab moved so fast and responded too quickly. The driver suspected that someone else or something was driving it. When they arrived, there was a collective sigh of relief. Being right near the gate, they then entered, with Salena leading. "Who are we looking for?" Eldon asked. "His name is Raskers," Salena responded. It was a large habitat park divided into ranges for different animals. There were no bars, only transparent barriers between the animals and the visitor paths. They wasted no time looking at the animals as they made their way through the park. Salena knew exactly where she was going. The 8-legged spider monkeys were following them on the side of the path for a while. 2 bear snails were sliding slowly down the barrier as they passed. They saw Kangalama hopping toward the range as they were headed for the Getgots. These creatures looked like big cats from a distance. Then one came close, and you could see his bulging eyes and long lizard-like tail. Then he put his 2 front feet on the transparent barrier and started to climb. The paws were more like the feet of a gecko, and they clung to the smooth surface with ease. Salena blew a tiny whistle that was on a chain around her neck. It was silent, but not to the Getgots. The one on the barrier immediately jumped down and ran away. Then from a distance came a growl, and you could see a huge Getgot running toward the window. He was striped in brown, yellow, and green. He came up to the barrier as if excited to see an old friend. "This is Raskers," Salena excitedly announced. Salena put her palm against the barrier. The Getgot put his paw at her hand. Eldon was quite amazed and started to ask how, but before he could, Salena explained, "I raised him from a cub until I could not keep him at home. We are good friends." After a few seconds of admiring Raskers, the friendly Getgot, Morcerita alerted Salena to the path behind them. Approaching rapidly was the man from the Department of Seguros. He had now seen them. "Let's go, this way," Salena said as she started to run up the path. They came around a bend and were at the end of the Getgot range. Salena now blew her whistle, and seemingly before she had finished, the Getgot was on top of the wall above them. He apparently knew how to get out. Salena reached up toward him. The Getgot, Raskers, let down his long tail. Salena grabbed hold, and it pulled her up to set her on Rasker's back. She then motioned for her 2 friends to come up. Morcerita was lifted up, and then Eldon. Raskers was large enough to accommodate all 3 on his back. He carried them to an arch that stretched over the walking path. At Salena's command, Raskers started to cross the arch. She had in mind using the Getgot's abilities to hide from their pursuer. Raskers obediently was walking out on the arch when his legs started to change. They took on the exact color of the arch, just like a chameleon. The Seguro man was coming up the path in view of the arch now. Salena pulled Rasker's mane, and he climbed to the side of the arch away from the pursuer. They were sideways, but did not fall off of his back. His feet were clinging to the arch like a strong magnet, and with each passing second his color change was covering his body. Then Eldon, as if this was not fantastic enough, noticed something quite amazing. They, the riders, were changing color too, to match with Raskers. Next their Getgot ride moved to the underside of the arch. Yes, there they were, upside down, and yet firmly attached to Raskers and the arch. The Seguro's man did not see them at all as he passed under the arch, since they were invisible, changed as it were. After the man was several meters down the path, Raskers, still holding his riders, climbed to the other side of the arch and then to the top of it. The man suddenly looked behind him toward the arch. Raskers and the riders froze. still in the sandstone color of the arch. Not realizing what he was looking at, he just shook his head and continued on down the path. The three of them were very happy to be rid of their tail. They thanked Raskers, Salena with a big hug, and he returned to his home. Eldon had been wondering about Salena for some time, but now he was certain that she was special. She had abilities beyond the average person on his planet or hers. He definitely wanted to get to know her better. Salena wanted to take them to one more outstanding place before Eldon had to leave. The Altora was the highest Terra tower in the city of Cardenio del Rio. It was a fortified structure built around a very tall natural formation. The superstructure added 1/3 more height to it, making it more than 500 meters high. From the top observation room, all of Cardenio del Rio could be seen. The river Hugres, shining in the evening sun, was an awesome sight. Flowing from the mountains, winding its way through, it gave life to the city. It flowed strong and deep around the island in the middle of the city where Altora was, and then out to the lowlands. Barbay Valley could be seen in the distance, where the river used to flow long ago. It was the perfect place to contemplate the wonderful day as the sun set. "What do you think of this place, Eldon?" Salena asked. "What a spectacular view, and this is one of the most fascinating and beautiful cities I have ever visited." "We just saw a few highlights today. Will you be able to come here again?" from Margarita. Eldon glanced at her, then looked directly at Salena and said, "Oh yes, I will have to come again because I like this view, I really do." Salena just gazed into Eldon's eyes with a new interest, which was more than interest, it was attraction. In that moment she understood exactly what he was saying, and with her eyes answering, saying, "Here I am." Then Margarita, seeing the emotional connection being made, said, "I'm going to look at that over there," and discreetly walked to the other side of the room. "I hope you'll come back soon," Salena said quietly to Eldon. "Tell me about what happened today," Eldon started, unsure how to word his question. Taking a breath, Salena thought for a moment, then explained, "That man that followed us was from Seguro's. They are very suspicious of strangers. That part I can understand, but in the cab you saw what was about to happen, and the way it moved was uncanny. I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to get to the zoo as fast as possible safely. And that get-got creature? Raskers is my wonderful baby. He helped us shake that tailor. Isn't he a super climber? But I helped us stay on his back. I have never met anyone like you. The things you can do are extraordinary. You know that some people on our planet have the Exteran powers, but I keep mine a secret. I use them only when I have to, or just for frescazi with friends that I really trust. My mother taught me never to use my abilities to cause harm or to gain fame. I try to live that way in her memory. I know your mother is gone, but what about your father?" "My father disappeared when I was a baby. He was most likely taken captive or killed during the Zoldask invasion." Eldon now interjected. "It was from the Zoldask that the Dark Lords emerged." "That is true, Eldon. That was great work you did a year ago in San Juan de Luz. There are many here that appreciate the help of the Sing Swords. I am so glad I am able to do this and that I found this place." Eldon looked out at the river, then asked, "Is there any other family you have here?" "Only my stepfather. He is retired from the Department of Seguros, and I am sorry to say he is opposed to my belief in the source. Really, Don Viejo is more of a father to me than he is." They paused to take in some of the view. Eldon now spoke. "People like you and Don Viejo are rare. You share belief in a creator as I do, but we now seek not just the source or creator of life, but a benevolent creator with a purpose." Salena turned toward Eldon with wide eyes and said with intensity, "He should be like a loving great father." "That is exactly my feeling. The evidence is there, but it is an unbelievable concept on my planet. The idea is not well accepted here either, except among some fringe groups. They are considered lunatics by the majority of the populace." She turned to look out at the setting sun and said thoughtfully, "I believe in time the Creator will reveal more of himself to us." Eldon responded in a definite tone, "I believe this Father has revealed more about himself already today." Then they looked each other in the face. Eldon raised his hand, then Salena raised hers, and they touched palms. "Have you always felt this way, Eldon? About the Creator, you mean?" "Yes, and that we can imitate his love." "No, but I had a friend that helped set me on the source-seeker path. Since then I have had an awakening, a new life, a realization that I am not just a Hearthite, but a citizen of the universe." In the wonder of this moment, Eldon seized the opportunity and said, "I would like a partner to explore the universe with. Will you be that partner to me, Salena?" "Yes, I will," she said without hesitation. From that moment on, Eldon and Salena made a partnership, even though an unofficial one by society standards. Eldon saw this experience as another revelation of the Creator and his benevolent qualities. He was amazed and moved by the way this person, a part of the Creator's works, could fulfill, inspire, and complete him. By the words of the fringe poets, he was in love, a fantastic state. The next day, at the Department of Seguros, Salena was approached by Ramon Fateo, a deputy chief who would try to harass her from time to time. They went out to dinner once, and Fateo got too aggressive with her. He continues to ask her out, but she continues to refuse him. This time, his approach is slightly different. He has heard that she has been seeing a sing sword, and he tries to warn her. Standing in front of her desk, he takes a sip of his Valcafé, then wipes his mouth on his sleeve. Some droplets of it glint on his shaggy mustache as he says, "Listen to me, Chiquita. Even if this sing sword is not a spy like you say, but I think he is a sentimental fool. If you believe his local story about seeking a supreme being, I believe he is sincere. He would not lead me on just to gain information. Sing swords cannot be trusted. They try to get inside your head, Salena Nina. I heard that he is chasing a rainbow world, too." "How do you know that?" "We have plenty of intelligence here, my dear." "If you want to know all about him, why don't you ask him when he comes back in a few months?" she said in a disgusted tone. Fateo retorted arrogantly, "Ha! Yes, that is a great idea. And that is why you are just a secretary, and I am a chief, because I understand how things work in this world." "Oh, I know, Ramon. That is why you are so insecure and threatened by every outworlder. You may know this world, but you don't know how things work in the grand scheme." His pride pricked. He slammed his cup down on her desk, and some of the greasy liquid spilled out. "Just be warned. If you keep running with this sing-sword fanatic, it will not turn out well." He stormed away, leaving the nasty cup on her desk. A few days later, Fateo approached Manuelo, Salena's stepfather, at the villa of his residence in late evening. "I have a report concerning your daughter, sir." "Oh, what has she done now, Fateo?" "Salena has become enamored with this sing-sword Eldon. She refuses to listen to reason. Her mind, I fear, has been overreached. She has given him information about our planet. I believe she is ready to join him in his invasion plan." "She is much too independent for her own good," Manuel said as he lighted his cigar, then continued, "I trust your judgment in these matters. What do you suggest?" "We will follow him when he returns, and at the right time catch him in the act, so to speak." "One of your skillfully executed frame jobs, eh, Ramon? I like it." "It'll be a work of art for you, Manuelo, sir." Manuel raised his hand in approval as his smoke wafted up. Then Fateo bowed slightly, turned, and started to walk out. "Oh, Fateo, one thing." Fateo slowly turned around.
Beware of her witchcraft. She has plenty of, how do you say, tricks in her bag, Manuela warned.
Salena and Eldon tried to keep the day of his return a secret from Seguro's department. On the day of his return, they met in Sendera Park at a wooded area near the Rio station. It was a happy reunion, just the two of them. Seemingly they had evaded Seguro's surveillance. They blended with the crowd and got on the Vista del Rio cruiser. This was a great way to see Cardenio from the river. As they passed the spires of the castles, saw the Sarai gulls gliding gracefully overhead, and passed under magnificent bridges, Eldon began to get inspired. He had thought a long time about what to say and how to say it, but now he was not sure. His words did not seem adequate for the occasion and his new romantic feelings. This was new territory for Eldon, but he was learning. Salena, I have seen many wonders in the galaxy, but you are the most wonderful one. It seems the galaxy revolves around you and is made so much more beautiful by you. Eldon, you are beautiful to me and a treasure. You give me hope. The Creator, the source of love, has shown his love by you, Salena. He is seen in you, Eldon. He wants us to be together. Then they exchanged their seals on the back of their hands. This was a sign of the formal making of a partnership. Eldon applied his seal to Salena's hand first. It was a type of permanent color. Then Salena pressed her seal to Eldon's hand. Just after she finished, a tear fell onto it. From Eldon's eye came the evidence that this was a deeply moving first experience for him. They decided to go back to the park after the Vista cruise. On a path in the park, they enjoyed some relative privacy as they discussed what to do next. They agreed that it would be hard to stay on Valagnes, yet it would be hard to leave for Salena since this had always been home. It was getting late now, and the daylight was almost gone. They followed a path to the street so Eldon could see Salena home before he went to the Intreb gate. Suddenly 3 men dressed in black hooded coats jumped out from behind some bushes. 2 of them grabbed Eldon and held him. The other grabbed hold of Salena's jacket. Salena screamed, pulled away, and the jacket tore. The attacker tried to grab her arms and suffered a severe shock. He fell to the ground unconscious for a few seconds. The 2 holding Eldon now ran away. Then the shocked one woke up and immediately ran also. Salena and Eldon embraced, relieved they were unharmed. Within a few seconds, the park security guards arrived and asked what happened. Just at that moment, a thin man stepped out from the shadows and said, "I saw it! I saw what happened!" He was thin, gaunt, and wore a brand new expensive coat. Yet his shoes were very worn with holes in them. "He attacked her," pointing at Eldon. He added, "Yeah, he hit her on the head and grabbed her." Astonished, Eldon protested. "No, no, sir, that is not what happened. There were 3 men in hoods." The guards immediately took hold of Eldon. "That man is lying," Salena angrily said, pointing to the thin man. One of the guards took a closer look at Salena and said, "Her clothes are torn." He took her arm and said, "Let's go to the security office." But Salena protested, "Eldon is my friend. He did not attack me." The guard routinely explained without looking at Salena, "You were hit on the head. We have to take you in for examination." They were not interested in anything that Salena or Eldon said, only the so-called witness who they left in the park. When they got to the security office, they were taken to separate rooms. A female officer came in Salena's room and asked her if she was unharmed. Salena tried to find out about Eldon, but the officer just said, "You will feel better later," and left the room. Then after a very suspicious short time of 7 minutes, Manuelo came, showing an uncharacteristic interest in Salena's welfare. After only 1 day in a detention cell, Eldon was escorted to the Intreb gate with a warning not to return for 10 years. Even if Eldon was guilty, the crime of assault by an outworlder had a banishment of 5 years. But because the alleged victim was the daughter of Manuelo, they doubled it. Of course, this scheme was seen through by Eldon and Salena, but there was nothing they could do. As time passed, while they were apart, it was heartbreaking. Eldon was able to communicate with Salena later through his friend 511812 Eshod, who was able to visit the planet. He could not use normal channels, so he would not jeopardize his Singsword status. Finally, after nearly 2 Valeniers years, Eldon attended an SS Dome on the theme of love. He was overwhelmed with joy and exultation when Salena was brought to him there. She was now a Singsword too, much sooner than Eldon expected. So with their obstacles overcome, they were now able to seek the Source as partners in all the universe throughout time.